I've always wanted to try 52 GSM paper, and you'll notice that in the next few months I'm going to start trying a few journals that are a bit different to my usual range that are usually between 120 and 160 GSM, and I'm trying some of the lower ones, and that's because I loved the paper in the Traveller's Company journal so much that I thought, hey, I'll see what the other brands are like. If you're having trouble picturing what 52 GSM paper looks like, think of a Bible, because Bibles have paper that's between 40 and 50 GSM. So it's only a few GSM heavier. While the paper has been treated to deal with inks, we will see just how much ink it can cope with. Yes, it ghosts a lot, but you kind of have to love the crinkly feeling the paper gets when you use watercolours. Hi, I'm Ruby from The Useful Journal. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel for more journal review videos and washi tape art. Today I'm reviewing a Stalogy, and it's the 018 Editors series in the half-year dotted notebook version. I will tell you a bit about the company and their products, the packaging of the journal, the construction of the journal and its markings and features, the paper. We will go through a pen test that includes lots of watercolour testing, and I will talk about the company's approach to environmental and social responsibility. Stálogy is a Japanese brand owned by the Nitto Group company. This company has a huge range of products that extend far beyond paper products. As far as I can tell, the products are made in Japan, as they provide addresses for factories and plants there under their company profile, with the journal principally sold through an extensive range of stockists in countries around the world, and also available online through a seemingly unlimited number of sites. This journal is not hard to find. The Stalogy notebook comes in a few different forms, but they all have the same paper. I purchased the half-year notebook with 192 pages, and this also comes in a 356-page version. The dot grid only comes in A5 and 4 colours. There are alternative designs that include a month, day and date display at the top of the page, grid or plain paper, and size options in A5, B5, A6 and B6 with the same 4 colours. They don't offer journals with lines, which is extremely unusual, and if you get the grid version, the grid is 4mm, whereas the dot grid is 5mm. Some distributors still have a Stalogy vintage notebook, which is 80 GSM paper and only 104 pages. It isn't available on the Stalogy website and not seen that often elsewhere, so I suspect it was a special release. Taking the price from Yoseka Stationery in New York, the price per page for the Stalogy half-year notebook is 10 cents US per page, and that gets lower for the 356-day version. This low price is achieved by just simply being able to fit more pages in the journal, because I calculate it by the price for the journal divided by the number of pages. So obviously more pages, cheaper per page. What I will add is that this low price doesn't really include a lot of features for this journal, and there is also limited application for the paper because it's so fine and it has a few issues. It's not going to suit every purpose. The journal is packaged in a thin plastic packet with a large belly band that includes information about the journal in both Japanese and English. The journal is embossed in gold in a very minimal way near the spine on the front cover with the brand, and cryptically with stationery, standard and technology, and their byline, what should have been is. If you have any idea why they brand it with stationery and with standard and technology, please let me know, because I am dying to understand why you would put that on the cover. There are no other markings. The cover is leatherette and has been created with a fine woven texture. There is no closure, but there is unlikely to be a need for one. There are card weight lining pages inside the covers, and there are no other features, no pocket, pen loop or ribbon bookmarks. The edges of the pages are plain, the corners are rounded. The journal's 192 pages come in at a very light 200 grams, and the journal is only 8 millimeters thick, including the cover. A standard 160 GSM journal with this many pages is more likely to be over 500 grams and over 20 millimeters thick. So this journal is perfect for someone that is seeking a minimal and lightweight option. The notebook has a perfect binding, which is a style of binding which glues together stitched signatures to the spine, with the stitching observable through the thin leatherette cover. While a perfect binding is a very high quality finish and you're unlikely to see pages fall out, it doesn't perform particularly well in terms of laying flat when opened, although it's only a real problem when working on the pages at the beginning and the end of the notebook, because towards the middle, the weight of the pages help the journal lie reasonably flat. The signatures are well connected with each other, with no noticeable joins, glue or unevenness. The pages have been cut to be flush with the edges of the cover, and the leatherette does not fold over the edge of the cover, rather it is flush with the card lining to which it is glued. There are no markings other than the dot grid. There are 29 dots across the page and 41 dots down the page that are well aligned across double page spreads. The rows of dots are consistently equidistant from the outside edges of each page, typically by about 4 millimeters, but the rows of dots are much closer to the centerfold. The dot color is exceptionally light, testing at 2 out of 5. Most journals are 3 to 4. I find the dots difficult to see and I have to concentrate to write in a straight line. I understand why they've tried to make them unobtrusive, but when you make them so light that they then don't properly serve their function, then what's the point? I also find that even when dots are darker, once you've written on the page, you really don't notice them. So I am not sure that this is something that is necessary. The ivory paper is 52 GSM and it is not Tomoe River Paper. It is a proprietary paper developed especially for the Stalogy journal. The paper is not as smooth as I expected. It has a very slight texture which provides more feedback as you write, similar to a Lostrom 1917 paper. I could feel this texture when writing with fountain pens. I tested 4 different fountain pens, including a Lamy AL, a TWSBI 580, and a Pilot Metropolitan, all of which had medium nibs, and a Sailor with a medium fine nib. The pens did not glide across the paper, and there was even some feathering, particularly from the more juicy TWSBI 580 pen that I had filled with Iroshizuku ink in Inaho. I am told that fingertips can contribute to feathering and bleed through, so this may be what was happening. Perhaps I am going to have to start journaling with gloves on. As expected for 52 GSM paper, there was a lot of ghosting and some bleed through of several pens. The usual suspects of the Sharpie Ultrafine pen and the Stabilo .88 pen bled through, and the Staedtler marker was very close to bleeding through at points of saturated colour. Writing with a Tombow dual brush pen was fine, but once you started colouring with it, leading to multiple layers of the marker and wetter paper, bleeding started to appear, particularly for darker colours. Depending on your opinion, the juicy Twisby either bled through or at least came very close. Pretty much everything ghosted through the page, or even through 2 pages, except the lighter coloured inks in a pale grey Tombow marker and a pale blue Posca pen. In a reverse of what I usually see in my pen tests, the black ink for the stamp pad did ghost through to the back, but the blue drawing ink I used to fill in Snoopy's feet did not show through, barely even ghosting. Fountain pen inks feathered with the more juicy pens, but looked fine with the finer pens and more viscous ink colours, with the best result from the Sailor medium fine nib. Pigma Micron pen ink dried quickly with no smearing when a hand is brushed across the page after only 5 seconds. Lead pencil erased cleanly. The small amount of texture in the page meant that coloured pencils applied well without skipping. Whiteouts weren't great, but the best result was with the tape. The results for watercolour were very good. I had observed online that using watercolour in these lightweight paper journals is reasonably popular, and so I kind of assumed that it would perform okay. But I'm impressed for more reasons than I expected. While the watercolours ghosted to the back of the page, like most media, there was absolutely no bleeding or water coming through the page. Water did sit on the surface of the page and cause the paint to pool a little, but there was also less movement of pigments to the edges of the wet spots than I would have expected. In fact, it was possible to get some nice shading with the pigment, as seen on my painted bird. While you are not going to get the result with watercolours on Stalogy paper that you would on proper watercolour paper, I don't dislike the results. And I think it would be a nice way to decorate your journal, given other mediums seem to have a greater risk of bleed through. I added a fair bit of water and there is warping of the page around the wetted area, but again, not as much as I expected. It's always tricky to find information about companies. What I was able to find was their unified management policy that addresses quality, environment, and occupational safety. This policy addresses energy use, pollution, reducing waste, and protecting natural resources. The parent company of Stalogy, Nito Group, has a number of certificates registered with the Forest Stewardship Council, but it is unclear whether these apply specifically to the Stalogy journals. There is nothing on their website that specifically states that the Stalogy journal is FSC certified, but the company is definitely taking steps to reduce their overall environmental impact. The company's policy also addresses the importance of the mental and physical health of their staff. As Nito Group is a publicly listed company, as the Nito Denko Corporation, they would be required to provide an annual report to their shareholders, which increases the likelihood of them reporting against actions taken on the policy. I have to say that the reality of the Stalogy journal didn't quite meet my expectations, but I can see the advantages of having a slimline and lightweight journal like this one. I think if I was using this journal, I would stick to a fountain pen and ink combo that had a little less juice, like my Sailor pen, markers and highlighters in very pale colours, like my N89 Tombow, and watercolours. You could still then have a lovely and even artistic journal without significant levels of ghosting. Please like my video and subscribe to my channel, and I'd love to hear your experiences of using this journal and feedback on my review. See ya!